how did you get into comedy? When did it first start? Because I just know this later part of you, and I've been
Yeah, I
investigating.
loved comedy when I was a kid. So, when I was a kid, that's when the 80s boom was happening with comedy. So it was like Roseanne Barr, Bobcat Goldthwait, who else was, Louis Anderson, George Carlin, obviously. It was like I grew up during that time.
Mhm.
That's when I was a kid. And I was a young kid and I was really into stand up, but I lived in a town called Casa Grande, Arizona. And so in my head, like being a stand up wasn't even an option because I was like, how do you make it from here to being on TV? Because I didn't realize how stand up worked and people were all over the country. I just thought of them as being on TV. And so I forgot about that. And then years later, I could make my friends laugh till they couldn't breathe. And one time I was sitting with my ex and I told him, I was like, I could do that. And because we were watching Ellen DeGeneres Here and Now was what we were watching.
Mhm.
And he was like, I know you could. And then a couple weeks later, I saw an advertisement or a story in a magazine called The New Times. And at the end of the story, it said that the person who had written that story, it was a movie review for like Terminator or something, or Terminator 3, I think. And it said that the review was written by a stand up comedian that ran an open mic at a place called The Sets in Tempe, Arizona. And I was in Phoenix at that time, which is, Tempe and Phoenix are basically Phoenix metro area, so same area. And I made it a point to go down there to the open mic. I didn't tell anybody I was doing it. I went ahead and did it, and then it was just from there, just continue to do it.
Wow. Wow, that's good. And the first time, how did you feel going up on stage? Were you unprepared or?
I thought I was fully prepared.
Uh-huh.
I had really written stuff down word for word, and I knew exactly what I was going to say. What I couldn't prepare myself for was the stage fright. So when it came to the stage fright, and I had written, because I was like, maybe I'll forget some of my stuff. And so I had written bullet points on my hand. And uh, while I was sitting there, I was so nervous that I was rubbing my hands on my jeans. So when I got on stage, I, of course, forgot everything because I was so nervous. And then I went to look at my hand, and everything had rubbed off my hand. And this is happening on stage. And then I looked closer, like, because I couldn't believe it. And the audience started laughing so hard at that. And I was able to remember like maybe two or three things. I was supposed to do 5 minutes. I'd be surprised if I did two and a half, but people did laugh at the stuff I did say. And I
Uh-huh.
was like, yeah, I can do this. I just need to work through this stage fright. Like that's my thinking in my head. And so, yeah, that's what happened. I wasn't able, there wasn't enough stuff in Phoenix at that time, though, like as far as open mics and things you could really do for me to grow the way that I needed to grow. So I
Mhm.
almost immediately went to LA. I think within 4 months of starting comedy, I went to LA.
And how was your experience when you did go to LA?
I guess my experience was quite a bit different than a lot of people because the first time Jamie Masada from the Laugh Factory ever saw me, he used to
Mhm.
sit in on every one of the open mics. And so the first time he ever saw me, he it was technically before I was living in LA because I went on a trip just to like get a lay of the land.
Right.
And I decided to stop in at the Laugh Factory open mic, which was a brutal process at that time. I don't know if it's changed, but you used to get there around 2 p.m. The mic didn't actually start till like 7 though. You didn't find or and you didn't get to sign up on the list until 6. So you had spent 4 hours basically on the sidewalk before you even got to sign up. And so but I really wanted to try doing the Laugh Factory. And so I did that. And back at that time, Jamie, the owner, used to sit in the back booth and he would watch every single one of the open micers. There were, I think, 20 of us that would go up,
Hmm.
or maybe it was 10. But you were only doing 3 minute sets and it had to be completely clean because Jamie and Laugh Factory at that time was more geared towards TV spots and people that wanted to be more like comedians that would be on TV.
Mm.
And so I had prepared for it and I did my set. I was still really working through the stage fright. And so afterwards, the real benefit to doing the Laugh Factory open mic at that time was JV would watch everybody, he'd take notes, and then you'd go upstairs and you'd all line up, and Jamie would sit with you for a second and he'd tell you what he thought of your set. He would critique you, and he'd tell you also what he wanted to see from you moving forward, that kind of thing. So when it was time for me to meet with Jamie, I walked over to talk to him, and then he was like, I think you're a really great writer. I can tell how green you are, though. You obviously need a lot of stage time. He was like, where do you live? And I told him, I live in Phoenix, Arizona. And then he was like, do you plan to move to LA? And I said, yes, I do plan to move to LA. I was thinking about moving here within the next couple of months. And he was like, move to LA as soon as possible. Stage time, stage time, stage time. I need you to get up as much as you possibly can, and I'll see you in 4 weeks. And so that was like the standard at the time. If he thought you were at least okay, he'd tell you he'd see you in 4 weeks, and then you could go back to the mic in 4 weeks. So Jamie was very hands-on with me from the time that I even, like I said, was just visiting LA. And so I had that going for me. And I don't really do things the way that Jamie would probably want me to do them at this point. And I am a Laugh Factory regular. I'm a paid regular at the Laugh Factory. So at this point, I've kind of deviated from what Jamie would probably want from me. But I still feel like everything he told me was very important. And I can't express how grateful I am to Jamie Masada for the approach that he took with me when I first started.
Yeah, and that's great with his honesty and his feedback.
Oh yeah, and like that continued because with Jamie, every time I would go see him, he would give me really detailed critique of what he thought I needed to be doing. And it took me 2 years to become a Laugh Factory regular. And there was a break in between where I didn't go to Laugh Factory because I felt like I just needed to grow on my own and get better at what I was
Right.
doing and lose the stage fright. But once I got in the process of showcasing for Jamie, it was 2 years, and every time I'd go in, he would be very detailed with me and be like, this is what I want to see from you. This is what I want you to work on. Talk more about this, do a little bit more about that. He'd even talk to me about the way I would dress at certain points. You know, he's like, you got to look more professional than you're looking right now. Cause, you know, you're an open micer. So sometimes you run in looking like you just got, you know, dragged in by a cat or something because you've been running around, you know, and he would let
Yeah.
me know that's not acceptable. You know, you got to do better.
Wow. That sounds like that training was that made you who you are today. That's very
Oh
good
yeah,
of
I'm
you.
super thankful for it. I'm super thankful for it. And you know, me and Jamie have had a full relationship as far as being, you know, friends or mentor mentee type situation. So there have been times where I've yelled at him. There have been times where we've gotten mad at each other, but I'm still very grateful for him. And our relationship as it stands now is great. Like if I were to see him, it'd be big hug. And you know, we're like that now, where it's just like, and you know, he accepts that I've grown into what I've grown into, and I'm still welcomed at all of his clubs, and he still pays me to do shows when I'm around. I'm just not in LA anymore, so you know, I can't do them.
Right. No, a lot of people have I was living in LA for 10 years and but I went back to New York. So a lot of people, it's like a ghost town over there now.
Oh
It's
yeah, well, I'm in Austin now, so
and how is now I because I really followed you. You went to Vegas and then you went to Austin.
yeah,
Um
yeah.
and how is now Austin? Because I have a good friend of mine, Aaliyah Janine. She's moving actually next month to Austin. Like, and she's a New York comic. Just she's like over it. How has Austin been treating you? And how I have yet to really talk to anybody that lives there. So I've interviewed. So you're my first.
I am having a mutual love affair with Austin. The city of Austin loves me, and I love the city of Austin. Everybody here puts me up all the time. I do so many shows. Almost everything that I do pays here. It's very rare that I'll do anything that's unpaid, and not everything. I'm not going to lie to you and be like everything's paying a lot. Is the
Right,
streets
right,
are
right.
made of gold? Do you know what I mean? But you're getting paid for everything you do, which you know the LA system is a lot of times you pay or you don't get paid and you have to buy something from the venue you're performing at, you know. So it's like a lot different here. But like as far as the comedy goes, what I like about the comedy here and what I like about the comedy audiences here in Austin is they'll let you say anything as long as you have a point.
So not so much of that censorship.
Yeah, but like the good thing about it is it's also just not a free for all. So if you're saying, buzzwords just to be edgy, the audience here is going to see through that and they're not going to go for it. But if you have a point and you have punchlines, the audience is open to you saying anything you want to. There aren't limits as far as, I'm a feminist, so you can't say this. I'm trans, so you can't say this. I'm gay, so you can't say it. Doesn't work like that here. Nobody cares about that here. You can try to say it if you want. You can try to voice it as a complaint, but you're just going to get drowned out because people are going to be like, yeah, that was funny.